This is the Casalguidi stitch. It's also called the raised stem stitch. It's an Italian word and it's spelled Casalguidi. So to begin with, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to lay down a little bundle of thread. And I just used some wool string, and I used several pieces of it, and I just kind of twisted it in place. Then you can see where I've couched it down onto the background. The next step is that you're going to do an overcast stitch across it. And so I started down here, and there was green thread hanging out here. And as I got up a little ways, then I clipped off the end of those green threads. So I started in a little ways along that green bundle. An overcast stitch is where you just go across, you go into the background fabric, and you come up and you pull it right there. And so that's the overcast stitch, and you can see that I'm doing it quite close together, and I'm encasing all of that green bundle down onto the background. Okay, the next step is that you're going to come back and you're going to do another overcast stitch across this one. And this one is going to be spaced apart. And I'm using a contrasting thread so that you can see it. But as you go across here, you're going to space those stitches apart from each other so that we can then do the last step. Okay, so do you get the next step is another overcast stitch across. Okay, now we'll take you over to another one that I'm working on that has the next step on it. So the last step, since it's called a raised stem stitch, we're going to do stem stitch right across that whole overcasted bundle. And on this one, you can see that the green stripes are the same as the rust colored stripes on this one. They're spaced evenly apart. The burgundy is where I totally encased it, like the blue here. Okay, I've come up on the end, and you're going to start this exact same way. You're going to just put this underneath the thread. They're the spaced overcast stitches. And you're going to stem stitch right across the whole length of that overcasted bundle. And you can see this is, I think, my 5th row or my 6th row, I can't remember. But as I go across, it's going to cover up all of that wrapped stuff and the stitch stuff that you had below the stem stitch. And that you're going to cover all that underneath stuff up. And it looks like a little, kind of in like a little knitted sweater over the top of it. You can see how it's starting to fill in. As you stitch, you can kind of move the stitches kind of close together with your needle. And I hope that you noticed that when I started, I just came up on the very end of that bundle. I'm using a tapestry needle so that it's blunt on the end, and then it's easier to scoot underneath that green thread right there. Two more, and then we'll go down on the end. Usually they do encase the whole area with this instead of leaving it like halfway covered, like mine is looking like. Okay, this is my last stitch. So now I'm going to just go down into the end. And then I would come up again over here on the edge. So I hope you can catch the vision of what this is going to look like when it's all covered. I'll tip this just a little bit so that you can see the edge, the covered edge of what it looks like. And that is called the Casalguidi stitch, or the raised stem.